Watch the edge of the light. Right there. That is real footage. A robot submersible about a mile straight down, and for 2 seconds, something the size of a truck slides through the beam, and then the dark just swallows it. You'd think a thing that size would be impossible to lose. Wrong. Nobody can tell you what it was. It got written down, filed away, and never seen again. And here's the thing that should bother you. That is not rare. Down here, that is just a normal Tuesday. We've named 8 million species, stood on Everest, mapped the deepest trench from orbit, and yet the biggest predators in the ocean we don't discover. We bump into them, by accident, decades late. So here's what I can't stop thinking about. How many giants has the deep handed us purely by accident, and how many is it still hiding, right now, in water no one has ever seen? So I want to ask you something, and I want to stay honest about it the whole way through. Not Megalodon, it's been gone 3 million years, let it go. Not a kraken, forget the monster stuff. The real question is scarier because it's reasonable. If we keep finding giant predators purely by accident in the tiny sliver of ocean we've bothered to look at, what is still down there that we simply haven't run into yet? And could it be hunting, right now, in water no one has ever seen? I'm Axel, this is Drowned Earth. If you want to know what actually keeps marine biologists up at night, it isn't the dark, it's how often the dark surprises them. Let's go down. Start at the surface, where you can still see. Sunlight only reaches so far. Drop past 200 meters and the blue drains out of everything. Down through a mile, then 2, almost 7 at the deepest point. It is the biggest living space on the planet, and your gut says a place this empty has nowhere left to hide anything big. Your gut is wrong. The emptier it looks, the better it hides. But here's what's wild. The ocean seems to know the exact difference between what we can reach and what we can't. Okay, so here's a number. I'll say it flat because it does not need any help from me. Take every square meter of deep sea floor a human being has ever actually laid eyes on. Every dive, every sub, every robot, all of history added up. It comes out to about the size of Rhode Island. One small state. That is the entire deep ocean we have genuinely seen. The other 99.999% we have never directly looked at, not once. And you'd think, fine, let's go look. That's the trap. Down there, the pressure builds until it can crush a steel sphere like an empty can. It's colder than a fridge, darker than anything you felt, and an ROV can take hours just to reach the bottom and back. So we don't scan the deep, we peek at it through a keyhole a few minutes at a time. And here's what those few minutes keep dragging into the light. Some of the surprises down there are the size of a bus. Want to know how backwards this is? More people have walked on the moon than have reached the bottom of the deepest trench on our own planet. 12 up there, a tiny handful down here. We sent robots 200 million miles to photograph Mars rock by rock, and meanwhile, there's more unexplored ground beneath the waves you can see from any beach than on the whole surface of that planet. We looked up, we almost never looked down, and down was where the giants were. 1976, a US Navy ship off Hawaii hauls up its sea anchor and finds something tangled around it. 15 feet long, 1,500 pounds. A shark with a soft, gaping mouth glowing pale on the inside, like nothing anyone had put in a book. It was so different that scientists couldn't just call it a new species. And here's the thing, they had to build an entirely new family of shark to hold it. A 15-foot animal, and until it grabbed a boat's anchor, we did not know it was on Earth. We didn't discover the Megamouth, it discovered us. And the twist that matters, the Megamouth isn't even a hunter. It's a gentle filter feeder, drifts with its mouth open, straining tiny shrimp, completely harmless, and we still missed it for the entire history of science. So think it through. If a 15-foot animal that wants nothing to do with anything stayed invisible that long, what happens to that logic when the animal isn't gentle? 2007, Japan. Fishermen pull up something long, pale, and deeply wrong. An eel-shaped shark, 6 feet of it. with a mouth packed full of 300 teeth, each curved backward into a tiny trident, so anything it grabs can only go one direction: in. It's still alive when they find it, barely, and the few pictures anyone managed that day are still the best look we've ever gotten at a living frilled shark. Its lineage goes back 80 million years. We think it hunts by lunging like a snake and swallowing prey half its own length whole. We think. Now here's the catch. We have never actually watched it happen. We only know from what turns up, digested, inside their stomachs, and the wildest part is still coming. Then the one that barely looks real, the Bigfin Squid. It hangs in the water more than 2 miles down, and instead of the tentacles you're picturing, it has thin, ghostly arms that bend at sharp right angles, elbows, trailing 20-30 feet beneath it like wet thread. It should not be real, but it is. In the entire history of the human race, we've seen this animal maybe a dozen times. Every sighting is a robot that happened to be aimed the right way for a few seconds in an ocean of darkness. We have never caught one, never held one. We know it exists the way you know a stranger walked past your window, a glimpse and then gone. And here's the pattern in its purest form: the giant squid. For more than 150 years, it was the definition of a sea monster, and the entire time we knew it only from corpses, bodies washed up on beaches, hunks of arm coughed up by whales, rotting things dragged up in nets. Generations of scientists studied an animal none of them had ever seen alive, reconstructing a 30-foot predator from the pieces it left behind. We did not film a living giant squid in its own home until 2012. 2012. We had spacecraft leaving the solar system before we managed to point a camera at the most famous monster in the ocean while it was still breathing. Let that land. And when we finally did, it rose into the light, eyes the size of dinner plates and pure gold. And then it slipped back down and the dark closed over it again. And if you think this is all old expeditions and grainy decades-old footage, here's the one that should get you. The colossal squid. Bigger than the giant squid, the largest invertebrate that has ever lived. An animal we've known about for 100 years, entirely from beaks left behind in the stomachs of sperm whales. We had the beak, the size of your fist. We had the scars, sucker marks the width of dinner plates, raked across sperm whales that had gone down there, fought something in the dark, and come back torn up. We had every clue except the animal. And here's the thing. A creature that may grow longer than any person has ever been tall, with the biggest eyes in the entire animal kingdom, and for 100 years, the only proof was the damage it left on what it fought. We did not film a living colossal squid in the wild, ever, until March of 2025, a few months ago. And the one we finally caught was a baby. So that's 4. 4 enormous animals, 4 accidents, and the score never changes. We didn't find them, they surfaced, and we happened to be standing there. So here's where my head goes, and I bet yours is already there. And here's the thing, every one of those was a coincidence. The Megamouth grabbed an anchor, the frilled shark hit a net, the squid drifted past a lens at the exact right second. Which means the only giant predators we know about are the ones clumsy enough or unlucky enough to collide with us. That's the entire sample. The animals too careful to do that, the ones that stay deep, stay dark, stay away from engine noise, they wouldn't be on the list at all. So how long is the list of the ones we've missed? Because, and here's the thing, the deep is extraordinarily good at keeping things away from us. It's vast, it's pitch black. Our brightest cameras light maybe 30 feet of it. A large animal that simply avoids noise and light, which is exactly what most large animals do, could live its whole life a few hundred meters from a research ship and never once land in a single frame. That's not a scary theory. That's the plain arithmetic of a place this big watched this little. And it isn't only our eyes that come back with question marks, it's our instruments. Drop a microphone into the deep and you record things we can't cleanly explain. Massive dense returns on sonar, a layer so thick that early crews thought they'd found a second seafloor, until it rose at night and sank at dawn and they realized the floor was alive. Sounds logged with no confirmed source. big moving targets that match nothing in the catalogue. Most of it turns out ordinary once we finally get eyes on it. Most of it. But every reading is the same quiet admission, over and over. Something is down there, we can measure it, we just can't see it yet. So let me put the real question on the table, the grounded one. The blue whale is the biggest animal we know of. Read that again, slowly, because it is not the same sentence as the biggest animal that exists. It is only the biggest one we have found. And we just walk through exactly how we find things down there, by accident, in a space we have seen 0.001% of. A predator does not have to be a movie monster to have slipped through a gap that enormous. It only has to be rare and deep and careful enough to avoid us. There is nothing impossible about that, and that's the unsettling part. It isn't a myth or a legend, it's just math that hasn't closed yet. Remember that shape from the very start? The thing at the edge of the robot's light? Okay, so I would genuinely love to end by telling you what it was. I can't. Nobody can. It got logged as an unidentified biologic and it was never seen again. And here's what gets under my skin. There are far more clips like that than you would ever guess, sitting in archives, unexplained. Because the honest scientific answer to what was that is, very often, just, we don't know. And down here, we don't know isn't a small gap. It's the size of an ocean. So why does the deep win this game every time? And here's the thing, 3 reasons and they stack. First, the dark. No sunlight has ever reached most of this place, so eyes are almost useless, and the animals that live there stopped relying on being seen a long time ago. Second, and strangely enough this is the big one, the pressure, which keeps our machines slow, rare and fragile, so our few minutes of looking cost a fortune. And third, the sheer size. We keep saying the ocean is big, but big doesn't cover it. It is nearly the entire livable volume of the planet, stacked miles deep, and we have a candle. Picture it like this. The deep ocean is a dark house the size of a continent. We are standing just inside the front door, holding a single candle, and we can see one small room. That's it. Everything we have ever discovered down there, every animal in every documentary, lives in that one lit room. The Megamouth, the Frilled Shark, the Colossal Squid, they weren't hiding in some far wing, they wandered into our doorway. And the house keeps going, room after room after room, into a dark we have never carried the candle toward. And there's a newer tool that makes this worse in the best way, environmental DNA. Every animal is constantly shedding tiny traces of itself into the water, skin cells, mucus, waste. And here's what's wild, you can scoop up a single cup of seawater, sequence what's floating in it, and read a roll call of everything that recently swam past. Scientists started doing exactly this in the deep. And here's where it gets really bad. The results come back with sequences that match nothing. Not a known species, not even a close relative. Just DNA from something alive down there. Unnamed, uncaught, unseen. We are now finding the fingerprints of animals we have no other evidence for at all. The good news, if you want some, is that the candle is getting brighter. Cheaper robots, sharper cameras, that DNA trick reading whole animals from a cup of water. We are finally starting to walk down the hall. But every single time we light up a new room, the pattern holds. We don't find an empty space, we find something we swore couldn't be there. So no, I can't tell you the name of the thing hunting the deep. Nobody can. That's not the video letting you down, that's the actual, honest edge of what we know, and it is a lot closer to the surface than you'd like. Tell me in the comments what you think is still down there, because I read every single one. And if this idea grips you the way it grips me, subscribe and come down with us. There's always more down here on Drowned Earth. Until next time, watch the edge of the light.